Welcome back to the Iron Keep. Today we'll be using this Tartaros pattern armor from the Horus Heresy. Um, the early bird gets the worm. Unfortunately, as the first people to get a refresh and a dedicated line, the Thousand Sons instead got the leftovers of the Horus Heresy to build their set off of. So, because of that, you can use the Horus Heresy stuff and it'll be almost exactly the same scale, which is pretty cool, and it makes it for a pretty good Kitbash. I originally got this for my Dark Angels, but they updated the scale for 40k, so 30k being a smaller scale, but the Thousand Suns falling inside of the scale that is the 30k line because of how early they were pushed out kind of makes it so that all of this stuff kind of fits in. We used a scroll from the Sorcerer's box of the Thousand Suns, and using one of the other halves of one of the staves, like the opposite side of a staff head, we can kind of cover up the scars that were left behind from carving off that shield symbol earlier. Taking it out of the more knightly aesthetic that it kind of has, kind of just as a 30k mainstay, and moving it towards that like pharaoh Egyptian themed sorcerer that the Thousand Sons have in the modern aesthetic. They had it almost a little more in the 30k line, but it kind of it's almost lessened at this point. But kind of using all of these parts from the Exalted Sorcerer's box allows you to bring that aesthetic in pretty effectively. Using some sprue glue to attach the arm, the staff's a little weird at this point, and I realize if I'm going to be messing with this model and putting like little bits and bobs on it, it'd probably be better to just attach the arm now so I can get where I want to put the arm and staff, but not really keep the staff attached. And since it wasn't fully done curing, I take this opportunity to kind of tear off the extra bits. It's just plastic, so like if you don't feel like something's going right in your Kitbash at the moment, you can just pull it off. Putting this together, I've had this problem a lot where I've primed miniatures and then I've decided to do stuff with them at a later date. This one I also lost the arm. The arm I initially built this model with was one of the power fists with the chain, was one of the chain fists. So I didn't actually use this arm. I cut off this hand for the Kitbash with the Raven Guard Captain Kitbash. So that's that sword, which left me with this hand, which is raising up, and it's pretty much perfect for this like Kitbash. It left kind of the leftovers to allow me to do this. Cutting off the little dangly bits. I don't really want these for this build because they have more of a Roman knightly aesthetic, so I don't really want that. And I don't want them hanging down from behind what I eventually do put on, which is one of the tassels from the Thousand Sons Rubric Marine kit. So pulling out that tassel from the Rubric Marine kit, I ended up needing to shave that down. But yeah, because of that, I kind of, because it's obviously made for a Rubric Marine, it's got a little like peg on the other side for where it slots into the Rubric Marine, so I had to shave that off. And then I decided for a little bit more of a close fit, I would shave it down and kind of whittle off some of the extra plastic on the back. I do get a little overzealous at one point though, and I almost cut the tabard clean in half, like almost removing the top. I just get a little, I just want it to be done. I wanted to move on with the build, and I push a little too hard and dig a little too deep, and I luckily I realize it's gonna take it completely off, so I use some plastic glue, kind of get it reset, melt those connection points back together so that it can not lose that like kind of decorative piece near the top. So just sticking it on top of his crotch plate here, it fits pretty well, Obviously, once it's primed, it'll be less obvious, but it's coming along so far, so I can't really be too upset with the results. I'm going to take one of the unused chest pieces I have from the Exalted Sorcerer's box and chop off the like sorcerer's robe looking fabric and thing, and I'm going to try and just place it on each side of these. This looks really nice by the end of it. Attaching it was a little rough as I've already primed it. The plastic glue doesn't really do well. Like, it'll eventually, because these are airbrush primed, it'll eventually cook through the primer, but it does make it hard to attach initially. Eventually I'll go back with some sprue goo and reattach it, and it'll actually stick that time. But you'll see a few separate times during this recording that it'll fall off a lot, and I'll eventually just leave it off until I can get to it with some sprue goo that I've recently made. Kind of still experimenting with the sprue goo. You can actually see a little bit of it like running into the details, which I didn't mind too much. I was kind of happy with the idea that the trim was being kind of softened a little bit, as you do kind of have that like almost soft warpy effect on some of the Scarab Occult Terminators. So with this being just a Chaos Terminator Chaos Sorcerer and Terminator armor proxy for the Thousand Suns, I wanted it to be a little blend in, and I knew that the more that was kind of added to it through this process, the better. I went with a basic like plain Terminator Tartaros shoulder pad, and then I ripped the cape off of the one of the Exalted Sorcerers, the one that floats. He can survive without the cape, in my opinion, because he does have the full robes going on, and because of that, I don't really feel bad taking this off of him, because this guy needs it more. So he politely donated it, only leaving a small piece on the right shoulder, which I'm eventually going to have to use sprue goo to cover up the fact that it's kind of broken like that and doesn't really attach well. The smooth pauldron for the Tartaros, when I attached the original arm, it eventually fell off when it was dropped, and then the shoulder plate was sacrificed to the floor gods, the chaos god of the floor, where all bits go, that you managed to drop, and they just vanish from existence. I should have almost left it there. I got a little overzealous with the sprue goo. I do go back in and kind of use the brush to clean it up, but after making that mistake, I kind of use it to like do a large attachment to that side of the pauldron, just so that it doesn't come off at a later point, because I don't know, I'm getting tired with these Kitbashes of things falling off all the time. So here we are back with the sprue goo, reattaching the, I guess, chaos scarf that comes off of the body of the Exalted Sorcerer torso that we carved to pieces. This was a little more reductionary of a build than I'm used to. A lot of things were cut and manipulated in order to make the build work a little bit more. I didn't really do the same thing I've done on the last couple, where I get some green stuff and try to build out that way, because the Exalted Sorcerer box, as Poorhammer has kind of said on multiple occasions, because that is such a good box, and because it does have that extra pieces kind of thing going for it, because of that, you don't really need to build anything from scratch on this build. And because of that, it's a little bit easier of a kitbash for me, more in my wheelhouse. Initially, I was going to use the staff bits from the same staff. However, I think it like got attached to my arm at some point while I was getting ready for the video, and it also was sacrificed to the floor chaos god. So it's gone now. It will never be found again, obviously. It's not around somewhere. I don't know where it went. ADHD strikes again, and it just vanished from existence. I also lost something else, but I can't remember what it was, so clearly it wasn't that important. I think I had cut a different staff head that I wanted to use, but I ended up going with a staff head that I'm pretty excited about, or I think I liked more than what I was originally planning. As you can see, when I put the cape on, we removed the sorcerer skull, or the spell scroll that was originally back there. I thought that it would look kind of neat as like a back decoration, but once I decided on the cape, it obviously wasn't needed as much. I don't really plan out these Kitbashes a lot. Like, I have a general idea of what I'm gonna do, and then I kind of just look at my bits boxes and my bits sprues and stuff. So like, I realized the other day when I was reorganizing my miniatures, I took all of my Tartaros ones out of my like Space Marines collection and I moved them down into my Thousand Suns shelf, which my Thousand Suns are not an army that I have considered myself being a huge like proponent of. Like, it's not my favorite army ever. So like, I didn't really feel like I needed it to be the perfect army. Like, I like it. I love the like Egyptian aesthetic, which I'm dry fitting the headdress and kind of seeing right now what we need to do in order to replace and put it on there as a Scarab Occult Terminator. Can't be anything without his ridiculously tall headdress. But when I put it down there, I realized that the Scarab Occult Terminators that I have down there, which the reason I'm not using leftovers from the Scarab Occult Terminator box itself is because I bought them on Troll Trader. So I didn't actually get the extra sprues with anything else left over from it. Otherwise, I would have loved to use like a Tartaros pattern shoulder piece option that I assume I've never bought the set before, but I assume that it comes with extras. But they're about the same size. They're almost exactly the same size. I think that when they were building the Thousand Suns, because it is the oldest of the 4 like chaos-centric armies, I think they just used the STLs from the Horus Heresy at the time and kind of expanded on them and added some beautiful detailing. But looking at them, like, this sergeant's actual designated shoulder pads, almost exactly the same as the Scarab Occult Terminators. I'm gonna cut off the little nubs that sit on top of the head, on top of the cowl area. Otherwise, the headdress isn't going to fit. I tried dry fitting it on there. I think that it won't matter too much on the aesthetic, just because the headdress will sit there anyway, so you won't really notice the plastic that's carved away. So I don't try really hard to be very cautious with it. I did have to cut like the oval that is the I have to cut the oval into the headdress shape just so that it'll fit, and then going in with a good amount of sprue, or not sprue glue this time, to me extra thin, and then bending it out just a little bit so that it'll fit better. I'm gonna take some sprue glue now and kind of fill in those gaps between the cowling and the headdress. Then I christen the miniature with the Scarab staff head, perfect for the Scarab Occult Terminator proxy, and I'm going to add a scroll onto the side that we took off earlier. And with that, we are at the end of this quest. And now we get to see the results of the quest. I'm super happy with how this came out. For just taking some bits out of the Exalted Sorcerer box, one off the Rubicon, this looks amazing. If you liked the video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And remember, no matter what you do today, make it an adventure.